both of them having such great loves for their community and realizing that there shouldn't be Mishawaka and South Bend at odds, but Mishawaka and South Bend working together. I think one of the ways that we really get things done is by building relationships. It's always so much fun to be at an event because they both have such a great sense of humor and to play off one another.
Two Indiana men, each a mayor of a proud community. Like Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, they've often worked together for the greater good. Military veterans who serve their country and serve fellow veterans today. Blue and gold Joe Kernan. Cream and crimson Bob Beutter.
The first time I ever ran into Joe Kernan was when I was playing baseball at Notre Dame during my junior year in the spring of 1973. He had just come back as a prisoner of war, and he was invited to throw out a first pitch in a Notre Dame baseball game. I remember our coach Jay Klein telling us all that there was an American hero. Back in 1988, when his first term as mayor, he asked me to be a city attorney, and I was very honored to do that, and frankly, it changed my life.
And I worked as Joe's chief assistant city attorney for 9 years, and then 18 months as his general counsel when he was lieutenant governor. And it was a lot of hard work and it was a lot of fun. His bottom line was always do the right thing.
He stole one of my best lawyers in the city attorney's office, Judge Jenny Manier.
I actually volunteered to be stolen.
Mayor Bob, I think, was a great leader in that he always kind of reached out and made you feel comfortable around him. He had a kind of a way of disarming people with his humor, with a sense of humor.
As a young professional, he's the guy that gave me an opportunity to come to work for the city. I started in city planning, and so I had a chance for 13 years to sort of work hand in hand with him on a number of key projects and really sort of see from the inside the man that so many of the people in the community knew. And he was a big picture, he was a vision guy, so he was a very hands-on leader. He really knew exactly what was going on.
Bob and I are not the same political party. Once the election's over, you're working for the people. And I really learned that from my parents, but Bob probably solidified it and showed that it could really happen.
20 years as the mayor of Mishawaka is the longest consecutive terms that any mayor has ever done. In doing that, certainly the sacrifices involved with family, and it's just amazing all the different things that a mayor has to do.
In my mind, he spent his whole life preparing to become mayor, then did it for 20 years, and for the, whatever it's been now, a dozen years since, he continues to serve the city. I still address him as Mayor Bob.
Once I got in, it was 20 years before I figured out how to get out.
During a term of office, a mayor faces many challenges, but few things can be as daunting as the loss of a major employer.
Unaroyal, which was our major employer right downtown, 50 or so buildings right there, was essentially left abandoned. Mayor Bob knew that there was an environmental mess underneath. He knew that if the downtown was going to be viable, that they would have to go. And so he had the vision to move quickly, tear down the buildings, which created an empty canvas. So what do you put there?
The goal was to get rid of a worthless, obsolete building and replace it with something that the community could enjoy, and take the river, which is the center of our city, and focus on it, turn our downtown toward the river. And so this was the beginning of all that, and ties in with our Riverwalk program. The Riverwalk started here and goes out in both directions.
I remember some of the first feedback from some of our citizens. I remember it being, you want to do what? You want to build a sidewalk along the river? What, are you nuts?
So Bob's vision of the riverfront in Mishawaka really was born in the early 1990s, long before the factory closed, long before a lot of those things were developed.
Not only has that really changed our downtown for the better, made it much more dynamic, tens of thousands of people walk that river walk in any given week, and we're seeing economic development return to our downtown in unprecedented levels at this point in time, and I attribute that to Mayor Bob's decision.
And while economic revitalization affects the entire community, how Joe and Bob have managed relationships tells an even broader story.
Joe was a person that really cared about whoever worked for him. I mean, as long as you delivered your work, he just made you enjoy what you was doing. Joe is very detailed in knowing what he's looking for, but will give you the opportunity to buy in on what we're doing. But in a very low-key way, he made it fun. I mean, when I call him Joe, I call him mayor, or I call him governor, but I don't think you will find a better person. And I say that with all sincerity because Joe have touched people that he doesn't even know.
I think every mayor is very mindful of those who came before and everything they did to move the ball forward. When I think about Joe Kernan's tenure as mayor, I think about a time when the city was really at a crossroads, and he made a lot of choices that showed faith in the city, showed faith in the heart of the city, following through on his own predecessors, making sure that they continued to deliver on things like the East Bank and Kovaleski Stadium, really investing in downtown, doing everything he could to make sure that the heart of our city began to come back to life. And now we're seeing that happen at a whole new level. It wouldn't have been possible without the leadership that our city had before.
While Joe and Bob each have impacted their communities, one can't ignore what they've done together and meant to each other.
The connection that the two of them had was really significant. It really helped bring the two communities much closer together. And I think they both recognized that we weren't competing with each other, that we were partners in this whole venture of growing our area here, there, and the cooperation, the collaboration that those two had served as a nice model for later on.
So look around South Bend and Mishawaka to see the impact Joe and Bob have made. Converting the Uniroyal property into a thriving development, or keeping baseball here. No matter where you look, you'll see Joe and Bob.
When Joe put together a group of people to buy the club, I know there was a very, very realistic shot that this city was going to lose baseball in general.
He had an owner that was determined to take the team away from South Bend and move it down to Southern Illinois. So we were able to pull together a group of 52 guys to put enough money in the hat to be able to buy the team back. From there, the mission from the beginning was to keep the team here.
You know, I think it's safe to say that without Joe Kernan, there is no baseball in South Bend. The actions both as mayor and afterwards that he took to save baseball for our city are a great example of something that's paying off and bearing fruit years and years later. You know, now when you're down at Four Winds Field, you see what's going on with the South Bend Cubs, you see families, you see people coming from all around the region. None of that would have been possible if it weren't for what came before, making sure that this was a city that kept its minor league ball club and kept building on and believing in what baseball, and more importantly, what sports as a way of building community could mean to a place like South Bend.
One cheers the Fighting Irish, the other is a Hoosier through and through.
Well, sure, of course, you know, he's an alum there, and I'll forgive him that. And I think that happens to IU people. I've seen so many, Governor Bowen and a lot of other people who are IU through and through. It's almost as though there isn't another university in the pack.
Well, when we have a board meeting for the Mishawaka Food Pantry, I a lot of times don't follow or make meetings based on the basketball schedule, but Bob makes sure that I understand that there is a game that night and we need to move things along. So he is an avid IU basketball fan for sure.
And Notre Dame can be 30-point underdogs, and Joe will go into the stadium saying, we're going to beat them today. Lou Holt said that life is 10% of what's given to you and 90% of how you respond to it. Well, here's Joe Kernan, stuck in the Hanoi Hilton for over a year, mistreated, still comes back, becomes mayor of our city, becomes lieutenant governor, and he continues to work in veteran affairs. Joe is a true public servant.
And Bob, as not only as mayor, but also in so many other ways, because he's served in so many ways. He has touched the lives of people in a way that becomes a legacy that grows every day. I can't imagine a day when he won't be here, but even when he's not, that legacy that he has created for the most part with humor, with vision, and with imagination will live long, long past him.
Well, I think first and foremost they respected each other. They liked each other. They understood each other because they were mayors. They knew the problems that Mayor Bob had over in Mishawaka were similar problems to what Mayor Joe had in South Bend. And so I'm sure on many occasions none of us really knew about the two of them would confide in each other, would work together. They both had even though they're from different political parties, they both had the same goals in mind, and that was to serve the citizens of this community. And they never put political aspirations ahead of that. And as a result, I think they were both great mayors.